Have you ever wondered which movies have the best art in? Well, I have. And when it comes to art that features in movies, in this video, I will take you on a tour of the 15 best movies with art in them of all time. And it's in no particular order. So, let's get into it. Number 1, Barry Lyndon, directed by Stanley Kubrick in 1975. It has stunningly shot scenes with sumptuous art hanging from the walls throughout the film. Many of the scenes were designed and inspired by 18th century British art of the period that Kubrick admired, including this Anthony van Dyck painting hanging in Wilton House, just outside of Salisbury, which is the largest painting the artist ever produced. Number 2, Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps, directed by Oliver Stone in 2010. There is a scene with a painting of Francisco Goya's Saturn devouring his son, hanging on the wall of the home of hedge fund manager Bretton James, played by Josh Brolin, and his whole taste and investment in art is splashed all over his lair-like study, including a Richard Prince painting which hangs opposite. Number 3, Vicky, Cristina, Barcelona, directed by Woody Allen in 2008, which uses the expressive paintings of Spanish artist Auguste Puig for the work of the character of Juan Antonio, played by Javier Bardem. I love his studio in this movie, covered with his paintings stacked on top of each other from floor to ceiling. Beautiful scenery, beautiful set design, beautiful colours. I love the art in this film. Number 4, Inception, directed by Christopher Nolan in 2010. Dom Cobb and Mal are having a conversation in a room of Sato's estate, and Mal points to a painting on the wall called Study of George Dyer by Francis Bacon. Christopher Nolan has said how Francis Bacon is his favourite painter of all time, and how the Joker in The Dark Knight was also inspired by Francis Bacon paintings. Number 5, Basquiat, directed by Julian Schnabel in 1996. The paintings in this movie of the director's friend and artist, Jean-Michel Basquiat, are everywhere and are presented in a believable and authentic way due to the fact that Julian Schnabel knew Basquiat and lived through the times that were depicted in the movie. It's one of the best biopics about an artist ever made, and I would highly recommend watching this movie. Number 6, Freda, directed by Julie Taymor in 2002, which shows paintings by both Frida Kahlo and her husband Diego Rivera throughout this visual masterpiece of a movie. It's beautifully filmed, and I can't recommend watching this film enough. I think Salma Hayek's performance as Frida Kahlo in this movie is the greatest of her career, and she also put her own money into the film to make sure it got made. Number 7, Tulip Fever, directed by Justin Chadwick in 2017, which is set against the backdrop of the 17th century tulip wars in the Netherlands, and has some beautiful portraits displayed on the walls of the houses the movie is set in, with very authentic interiors for the period. Number 8, The Dreamers, directed by Bernardo Bertolucci in 2003, which has turned into a modern-day cult classic and has an unforgettable scene of the characters running through the Louvre in Paris, recreated from Luc Godard's famous film Band of Outsiders from 1964. Both films are worth watching. Both films are beautifully shot. I highly recommend this modern-day cult classic. Number 9, Midnight in Paris, directed by Woody Allen in 2011, which has beautiful French art throughout the film, with unforgettable scenes looking at Rodin's sculpture of the Thinker, Monet's water lilies in the Musée d'Orangerie, and many Picassos too, including a very funny scene where main character Gil Pender talks about Picasso's life like he knows him. Later in the movie, Gil meets the characters of Picasso and Dali as he travels back in time in a time warp. Number 10, Skyfall, directed by Sam Mendes in 2012. James Bond is introduced to the new Q for the first time at the National Gallery in London, in front of the famous Turner painting, The Fighting Temeraire, which in 2015 was voted Britain's favourite painting. Number 11, Ferris Buellers Day Off, directed by John Hughes in 1986. And in this cult classic, Ferris, Cameron and Sloane head to the Art Institute of Chicago and see the museum's extensive collection, with Cameron's character finding himself face to face with Shiraz a Sunday afternoon on the island of Le Grand Jatte in a very iconic scene. Number 12, The Grand Budapest Hotel, directed by Wes Anderson in 2014. The main painting in the movie is The Boy with the Apple by Johannes van Hoytel, where Gustav, the hotel's invaluable concierge, and his apprentice, Zero, spend a good deal of the movie chasing after this painting. By the way, it is not the work of a Northern Renaissance painter, but rather that of Michael Taylor, a 21st century British artist. Number 13, The Great Gatsby, directed by Baz Luhrmann in 2013. And in this movie, beautiful art hangs from the walls of Gatsby's house everywhere we look. And we need only look to find the English painter George Stubbs hanging on his wall too, with his painting The Lion and the Lioness, which represents Gatsby's status and romantic ambitions in the film. Number 14, Pollock, directed by Ed Harris in 2000, which has Jackson Pollock's works throughout the film in this gritty movie centered on the artist's life as he struggles with alcoholism, as well as his troubled marriage to his wife, who is also the artist Lee Krasner. It has both Pollock and Krasner's work throughout the movie. Apparently, Ed Harris worked with an actual artist to understand some of the techniques that Pollock used in his paintings to prepare for filming. Number 15, and last but not least, Goodfellas, directed by Martin Scorsese in 1990. I couldn't forget this film, which has now become a cult classic, and in this hilarious scene of Joe Pesci's character, Tommy DeVito, and his mother, when she pulls out one of her paintings almost from thin air and explains how she loves painting. This scene always gets me. There's something very dark and humorous about it. A must watch.